Hi, this is John with Fix It Planet, and today we're going to go through this upgrade for some LEDs on this instrument cluster. It's a Chevy Monte Carlo, a 2002 in this particular case, although this particular upgrade can be used for a variety of different vehicles. In the case of the Chevy Impala and the Chevy Monte Carlo from 2000 through 2005. And at the beginning, we've had a link at the top, and we'll put that in the description down below, where this website goes over the whole procedure. And there's a couple of different things that you'll want to take a note of. And number one is you're going to want to know where your positive lead is and where this trace is running. So we're going to take a note of that. We're just going to go through and we're going to trace it, because you will need to know what is your positive and negative sides. So we're going to start here on the positive and follow it around. And you'll see I've marked little dots, black dots with a Sharpie, for the sides that are our negative side. Now these traces are easy enough to follow, so I would really recommend that you go through and just follow those traces all the way around the board, and then just kind of mark the spots as you come across the different locations where the LEDs are located. This way you can sort of remember at a quick glance where each one is and which is negative or positive. So each one of these places where I've marked with the Sharpie is a location where one of the LEDs is going to be exchanged with this. And the reason why somebody might want to do this is going to vary, but in many cases it's to modify the color of the illuminated dials on the instrument cluster, so your speedometer and so on, instead of being whatever the factory color is to something that you chose. And otherwise they may just burn out and you might need to replace them. In any case, we're just going to go through the process of doing that. There's a couple of different variations of this particular procedure. In this case, we are not going to need to install any kind of a resistor. But when you take a look at the web page that I put the link in the description, you'll see that there is, in some cases, you will need a resistor in line or in series with the LED. So I was just lining up the positive and negative sides to correspond with the holes they will be going in, just for visual. We're going to drop that into its holes, and we're going to hold it with one finger on the other side, and then on this side we're just going to bend those legs out so that we can hold it in place, and we'll solder them and trim off the excess. So that we can make sure they're flush on the board, we will reach underneath and push them flush against the board, and then heat up the solder on the one leg. So we're going to just do one leg first. We'll solder that and secure it flat against the board, and then solder the other leg so that we get a nice flush mount. So you can see there's the first one compared to the one on the right, the old one. So that's going to be much nicer. We're just trimming off the excess leg we don't need, and then we will clean it off. Now we'll just do these individually one at a time so that when we're done, they'll already all be clean. But you're welcome to do it however you want. You can just do them all and then wait until you're all finished and then clean everything up at once. So in this particular case, this is not my own instrument cluster, but a customer had brought it in. So these guys can be mechanics, or they can just be working on their own cars, and they want to do some sort of modification and trick it out a little bit. And so they brought this in to me, and they really already knew what they wanted. So basically in this case, we're just going to swap out 9 of these LEDs, and you can see the old ones are brittle, the plastics are breaking up, so they really need to be replaced anyway. They're probably burned out. A lot of them are burned out. So I believe that there's actually a secondary board that we also did for him. It's not in this video, but those LEDs were blue. So at the end of the video, I'll kind of show just a picture of what they would look like, obviously, if they went from the regular white to blue, just as a kind of example. And you can also see examples of that all over the internet. So I'm basically going to repeat the process for each one. We're going to desolder the old one and remove it. Then we're going to take the solder wick and some additional flux, and we will wick out any solder inside those holes. And then we'll put the new LED in and solder those legs. Snip off the excess legs that we don't need, and clean it up. So this video is a little bit it's not that the process is all that complicated, but there's just a couple of little things that do need to be paid close attention to. Obviously, you do have the polarization you have to worry about, the positive and negative sides, and so you need to be able to trace those lines where the positive power line comes in, and follow that around the board. Make sure that you mark off each individual LED that you're going to replace so that you can remember exactly where is positive and negative throughout the whole process. But you can also look at the link in the description, because this is actually taken, the idea was taken obviously from someone else. I didn't make this up, obviously, but the customer had brought this in and given me the website to go to for the explanation of this process, essentially, and this sort of upgrade. So I put the link in the description so you can check them out and read about it. And then sort of follow along with that. You can follow along with, this video a little bit, and that would give you a really good overview. So not just this video, but also the website that I put the link in the description to. Again, I'm just lining up the positive and negative legs to the holes so that you can see visually which leg will go in which hole. And then, of course, I'm going to push them through through the other side. You can also see just the black Sharpie mark, which denotes the negative side. Now you can't see my hand. It goes underneath the board on the other side and pushes upward on the actual LED to push it flat against the board as I heat up the solder. Now, these are close enough that if you have, a fairly large chisel tip or something, you would be able to heat up both legs. So it's not really necessary to use a super small tip. You can actually heat up both legs at the same time. But whatever is available, whatever you happen to have, will probably get the job done. But you do want to make sure that you have some solder and some flux, because that will make your job a whole lot easier. And some wick, solder wick. You can really see those are burned out. And they're brittle. So hopefully this video will be useful for someone out there that may actually be able to solder a little bit and wants to work on their instrument cluster. This would actually work in a variety of different scenarios. But if you happen to be doing this particular modification or upgrade, then you should be able to follow along using the website link in the description and this video, and you should be able to get the job done. Hopefully that's helpful for someone out there. Now you can kind of see my hand go under the board when I press against the LED and press and then solder it flat against the board. So basically I'm just propping the board up so that I can get access to both sides of the board at the same time, because I want to be able to reach behind there and pull the old bulb out. So that's another one of the benefits here, is you're taking out the old bulbs, which were just incandescent light bulbs, and they don't last for really all that long. Actually, it probably lasted for many years, but eventually they do burn out. And the LEDs would theoretically last for infinitely much longer than that. So that would be another reason why somebody may want to do something like this. So we get some mechanics will bring in different things. So in this case, we have this instrument cluster. Sometimes they'll bring these clusters in. These instrument clusters will come in and they'll have like cracked solder joints and things like that. So they might not work very well, or they may intermittently work. And we'll come in and we'll reflow all those cracked and broken solder joints. Other times you may have something similar to that, but it may be a power control module or something like that that needs to have those joints, reflowed. Sometimes you have a BMW fuel injection control module, for example. I don't remember what year it was, the model. But in any case, apparently there was an issue where one or more of some of these MOSFETs that were on there would just fail. And so I guess somewhere on the internet there's some explanation about that. And so they'll bring it in and they'll explain that and say, yeah, I found out this is my problem. I've already got the MOSFETs. Here they are. Can you just solder them on? So we get a lot of stuff like that. So you can see we're down to the last few. So some of the sort of disclaimers that you might get with this type of modification, I would imagine probably applies in just about any kind of repair for this, for any sort of electronics or other things where there's possibility of doing some damage or harming yourself or whatever. So you might get something that says, warning, this modification takes some skill and experience soldering delicate electronics. I am not responsible for any damage that you do to your cluster, your car, or yourself as a result of this modification, or any other of my modifications. This is not I'm actually reading this off of the website. But obviously I have a similar type of disclaimer. So you do all of this at your own risk. This is merely a sort of guide. Hopefully it's helpful for someone. How many more do we have? Do we have one or two? So you can see here a much better where you may have to bend what's left of those pins, straighten them out a little bit to help pull them through. You can see that one, all the plastics just completely broke off. Okay, got one more. You can also see where there's a Sharpie little pen mark on each one of the LEDs, or bulbs rather, that he wanted swapped out with the new LEDs. So I highly recommend that you visit the website for the link I'll leave in the description box. As far as if you intend to do any sort of modification like this with your instrument cluster in your vehicle, because there are a lot of other things that aren't going to be in this video that are important that you should know before you just start pulling one of these things out of your vehicle. I mean, I'm assuming that if you even intend to do that, that you have some idea of what to expect. But you should do as much homework as possible. So we now have 9 new LEDs replaced for old bulbs that may have been burned out or whatever. And hopefully you found this video interesting or useful, whatever the case might be. And we appreciate you watching. If you've made it through this far, congratulations. And we appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.